Do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much. Well, hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley, executive producer and host of the show, with my co-host, Pete Turner, somewhere in the background. Hi, Pete. And today we have Aaron Hale. This is a true crisis victory survivor story. And Aaron, first off, I want to thank you for your service to our country. It's an honor, sir, to have you on the show today. And I love my veteran community. I love my military community. I love my agencies community. And just for your sacrifices and all that you've done for our nation, I thank you, brother.
Doc, thanks for having me on the show. You're absolutely welcome. It's my honor and pleasure and to have served. And I consider my story itself a gift, the experience that I've had, and my responsibility to continue to serve.
Yeah, I get it exactly. You know, after I left, I spent 17 years operational as a contractor for the DOJ. After my release from federal prison in Leavenworth, I was recruited out of Leavenworth and became a contractor. And during that time, I was kidnapped once, captured once. I was left for dead once. I got hit by a soldier of the specific cartel, one of the cartels I was after at that time. They got me right here in my own backyard of my house up here in the United States. So go figure. We never know. But what we do know is this, that there's something indelible in a survivorship of a crisis event. And you, sir, you were an EOD. You worked with explosives, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. I actually started the military as a Navy cook, actually chef to a 3-star admiral, and decided that I don't know what I was thinking. I decided to switch uniforms and jobs and go to the Army and become an EOD technician, explosive ordnance disposal. So the guy that gets in that bomb suit and goes and diffuses the roadside bombs, which like I said, I don't know, it was too cush a job cooking for the admiral in Naples, Italy. So I decided to go to Afghanistan and Iraq.
Interesting. Well, listen, what I'm going to do, Aaron, is basically turn the show over to you at this point. I want you to share your story, and this is just an amazing crisis victory event. So thank you, and brother, the floor is yours.
No, thank you very much. Like I said, I joined the Navy, joined the military in the Navy to be a cook. But before that, my entire life, I had no intention of joining the military. I absolutely knew up until about a month before hitting the recruiter's office that I'd never be in the service. Just wasn't me. I was the all-American slacker. I had no ambition. I had enough natural talent and ability to get by, and a little bit of the BS to get me the rest of the way. But when I went to college, that's when all the people who knew how to work hard just passed me right by. So when it came down to, it was kind of a mutual agreement. I wasn't really cut out to be there. The university recognized this, and I was invited to leave. So that's when I knew I needed to turn my life around. I needed those internal values, right? The hard work ethic, right? A little pride in a day's labor, achievement, a little ambition, all that kind of stuff. So and I wanted to go back to college, but I just pissed away, kind of literally, the tuition. So where could I get these skills? And tuition money was the military, and at the time I wanted to become a chef. So I decided to join the Navy because all their bases are pretty close to a beach, and I'd be a cook in the Navy in the interim and get some OJT, all that. They sent me to Italy for 4 years, then Newport, Rhode Island, and I did along the way. I got those internal values, but I accidentally picked up some of those extrinsic values, the pride and duty and selfless service and teamwork and leadership and all that kind of stuff. and it kept promoting me ahead of my comfort zone and putting me into these responsibilities, roles, like cooking, being personal chef for a 3-star, commander of the Sixth Fleet in Gaeta,
Wow.
Italy. So I was the top cook for the top admiral in the Mediterranean in Eastern Atlantic fleets. It was awesome.
Amazing. Amazing.
A,
Amazing.
it
So
was,
what prompted you to change your MOS and go into the demolition part of your career, if you don't mind me asking?
well, I joined in '99. It was peacetime, and
Yes.
it was the hardship duty. It was not. But then I found myself pretty soon in 2 different wars. But I was on board the flagship doing our figure eights or whatever in the middle of the Mediterranean, and I'm watching the battles. I'm watching the war unfold in Iraq and Afghanistan
Yes.
on on TV, and I just, after picking up the values, the core values, the skills, this pride and achievement, and all of that, I just knew that my all of these talents and abilities and new skills just weren't being put to the best use, the highest best use in the military as a cook. I
Yes.
I
Yes.
loved it. I loved it. I loved being in Italy. I loved all that stuff, but I knew I was I was meant for something else.
So,
I
do you feel that you had a call to patriotic duty at that point? Was that the turning point? Because you were actively in a war zone region, if you will, and you felt something stronger call you to the change of that which you were doing at that time into what you began doing in the demolitions world.
well, in 2004, 2005, they sent me back from Italy to Rhode Island. I was at the Naval War College cooking, or actually working in the barracks there. But that they asked for volunteers to go to Afghanistan to those uh, PRTs, provincial reconstruction teams. And it was just piecemeal Air Force and Navy individual augmentees, just handpicked, kind of like TDY units
Yes.
to augment the Army and Marines that were out there. So basically, huge civil affair teams.
Yes.
And, and what I did was, I was a cook in Afghanistan. So I went from cooking for the admiral and his top brass to cooking for ISAF, the NATO troops. Six, 700 on this base. It was me, one
Jeez.
other Navy cook, and 9 national local Afghan cooks. So it was
Interesting.
definitely a culture shock. But that's when I met some EOD techs.
Wow, wow, what a draw, huh? That's just such an amazing transition to go from being a cook to working in demolitions like you did. And I just can't help but wonder what was the motivating factor of your decision to change your MOS and go into something as dangerous and as on the front line, so to speak, type of activity that you were able to defer from as a result of being a cook.
Well, I was already out there on the battlefield. I was way outside of my experience, zone. Right, but I was a whole new thing. I was wearing body armor for the very first time. I was carrying around an M16. Actually, as a cook, they gave me an M16 with a grenade launcher under it, an M9 on my side, and I'm carrying all this stuff as my to the office, so to speak. And I was just thinking, if I ever needed to use this stuff, it's a bad day for the base. But uh, that's what I met some EOD technicians that were stationed there on the PRT on the fob, and they had all of their gear dumped out of their armored truck, the Jerv. Doing maintenance checks on it, your bomb suit,
Uh-huh.
robots, all that kind of stuff. It was like a cool guy yard sale, and uh, I struck up a conversation with these guys. Uh, I, I found out about the technical aspect of the job, the tight
Yeah.
knit brotherhood within the military, and
Yes.
the fact that they're first responders, right? They're lifesavers. So all of that, it just something locked into place, something clicked, and I said, "This is what I need to do." I
Yeah.
put in a request through the Navy to become an EOD tech, and at the time, in the Navy, they call them MOS, they call them rates. They just they weren't taking cooks into the EOD program, so they said no. I guess they like my cooking too much, but
So
that's when.
I gotta ask you, Aaron, do they still call it an M203 16 with the grenade launcher attached? I've been out for 51 years, but I carried 16 with the grenade launcher. Is it still an M203 or is it an M79 or what do they?
At the time it was a 203,
Yeah, yeah.
and
The
they
79 is just a grenade launcher.
yeah, it's just the tube like a shotgun
Yeah.
underneath. It slides open. But they've since I've never been issued it, but I think it was like the 230.
No, it's a 203. When I was in Tigerland in Fort Polk, Louisiana in 1972, I qualified on that weapon. And I was in 11 Charlie Weapons Platoon Infantry. And that was my weapon that I carried was the M203. But, you know, it's been 51 years since I've been out. So it's really interesting to see what the changes are, if they change titles, if it just whatever. I was just curious.
But they when I went to Afghanistan the second time as an EOD team leader, I was working with I was supporting the 4-4 Cav out of Fort Riley, and those guys had a different 40 mic grenade launcher, and I think that was the M230, but don't quote me there. And that was actually a detachable, almost like a pistol grip.
Wow.
Grenade launcher, so it could separate from their then M4s.
Yeah. The M79 was a short barrel grenade launcher. It's just a thumper. Broke it down, popped one in, popped it out, and that was it. Real simple, real basic. But the M203 I thought was a very impressive weapon, and I was honored to have one of those assigned to me. And like I said, I qualified in Fort Polk and Tigerland back in '72 and got pretty damned accurate with it. Pretty amazing weapon. But anyway, go ahead, please.
They could definitely throw us a grenade further than I can.
Yeah. So anyway, when you were in Afghanistan and you got assigned about just before the incident occurred where you were in close proximity to a detonation, did you ever have anybody else in the that were working with you in that particular industry go through close calls like that, experience something like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, at that time, this is fast forward, leaving the Navy, going to the Army, doing the EOD school. It's about a year long.
Wow.
And I deployed once to Iraq, and then on my third deployment, second time to Afghanistan, I was then a team leader. I was experienced enough. I got my certification to be the guy that actually gets in the bomb suit. So by that time, this is fast forward to 2011, and it definitely in between Iraq and Afghanistan. And by that time, we were already in Afghanistan for 10 years. And that's we're talking lots of my associates, friends had run-ins with IEDs, unexploded ordnance. In fact, I went home on my 2 weeks of R&R from the deployment just to go visit the family, and this is just a couple of weeks before my incident. But I was home. I got to see my firstborn turn 1. Got to see the whole family gather around the Thanksgiving table, and it was like the best last page in the mental photo album. But at the same time, one of my fellow team leaders, also a good friend of mine, Kyle Vickers, was injured, and I was right there in the DC area. So I was actually there before he'd gotten out of ICU.
Wow.
And they wouldn't tell me what his injuries were, of course, because confidentiality. But they said,
was that Walter Reed? Was that Walter Reed?
That was Walter Reed.
Yeah, I've been through there. Yeah, I was there in March of '74. Quite
You
a
know,
place, wasn't it?
they wouldn't tell me what was wrong with him, but they said you can go wait in his room. He'll be out of surgery soon enough. So we get in there, and I look at his, the chair right beside his bed, and there was one of those Wounded Warrior Project or somebody dropped off some clothes, and it was some shorts, sweatpants, hoodie, and one shoe.
Wow. Yeah, that tells a lot.
So yeah, he came wheeling in, and I don't know if it was just the anesthetic still wearing off or his personality, but he saw me and had the biggest grin. He's like, "Hey, old dude, what are you doing here?"
Yeah, it's a brotherhood you can't describe when you've been in military, especially in heinous situations like some of us have been through. It's lifelong. That's your brother.
He was one of the first ones to come see me in my room when I moved into the same unit 2 weeks later.
Describe the incident.
Was that
what happened to you, Aaron? Describe the incident.
Well, like I said, I was just coming back from the Thanksgiving, the R&R leave, and the process of getting from stateside to the battlefield is long. Flying multiple legs, hanging out in Kuwait for a few days to catch a flight into theater, and getting from Kandahar to your forward operating base. It's a long drawn out process. So it took me almost I think it was like a week, but I got to Kandahar and then to the main FOB, where I met up with my team, jumped into my armored truck and loaded up to go out to our the COP, or our strong point where we were hanging out, where we were, the area we were serving. I had to jump in. We jumped into a supply convoy to get there, and on the way, they called back. The patrol leader called back and said, "Hey, there's something reported on the road up ahead." I wasn't on duty. It wasn't my AO, but what we're gonna do? Like sit there, twiddle my thumbs, and wait for the QRF to come out. The actual reporting team said, "Sure, no time like the present." So I threw the luggage, the bag off of the robot out of the truck, and we got to work. And it was the same thing we've been seeing the entire deployment. 99% of the stuff, it was just an oil, like a vegetable oil jug with some homemade explosives, a 9-volt battery, and a plywood pressure plate connected by lamp cord. And that's it. All year long, that's all we've been doing. And this was no different. And we had the robot tear it apart, and I just wanted to jump out, grab some evidence, and I grabbed the metal detector and an evidence kit, and I started walking towards the IED that was rendered safe, more or less, right? The components had been separated, so it wasn't in the bomb suit. And about 20 yards from the original IED, there was a secondary device that had not been found yet.
Wow!
I found it the hard way.
Wow.
And I got in a split second, I got punted into the air. The lights went out. My bell got rung really good, and I landed on my knees and elbows. I was still awake. I was still conscious.
Amazing.
But I couldn't see, and I was of course a little punch drunk. But the first thing I thought was attack. Right. Often what happens is they'll do this complex ambush where they set off an IED, and while everybody's worrying about what's going on the explosion site, they start firing small arms and whatnot. That didn't happen, but I was still concerned with it. So I stood up and I started making my way back to the safe area with the truck. Because what usually happens is the EOD team clears the safe path to an EOD team leader if the team leader goes down. I didn't want anybody coming into the dangerous area, danger zone. So I started walking back. Only I couldn't see. So I had no idea where I was going, and it's kind of like doing the first zombie walk of my life, just arms outstretched and walking around. But they grabbed me, dragged me back. The blast had actually ripped my helmet clean off my head. I'd
Wow.
taken my eye protection off and taken my eyes. It also cracked my skull in a few places, so it was leaking spinal fluid right out of my sinus, out of my nose.
Wow.
Of course, I hadn't realized that at the moment. All I knew was that I couldn't see. And
Yes.
they got me onto the medevac chopper. Came pretty quick because not too far from Kandahar,
Yeah.
and within minutes I was heading right back to where I'd just come from.
My God, brother, I'm so glad that you made it through that. That's just it's a miracle. I understand that your life today is very progressive, very fulfilling, that you've taken from this time of this uh, circumstance, if you will, that you have survived, that you've been able to build on that. And I'd like for you to explain to the audience exactly what you're doing today since this incident and the occurrence that the critical event that you survived.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a miracle, definitely a gift,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for every day. And believe it or not, I'm grateful for what's happened, my experiences, and what I'm able to do today. I've got this
Yeah.
incredible story that I sometimes can't believe I'm in the middle of, but
Yes.
yeah, I was there on Walter Reed. Yeah, definitely not a very happy camper. I was mad. I was angry. I went. I'd say that uh, embarrassingly went through the stages of grief like textbook,
Yes.
right? I can't
Yes.
even name them all, but it was like somebody was reading off a checklist, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing that next. But I was mad and mostly at myself for letting it happen, letting
Yes.
the guard down somehow, doing something wrong, failing my team, the Army, failing my family, failing myself, and all the what ifs, the why me's, uh, there's questions that have no answer, that can't be answered.
How do
They,
you, yeah, how do you explain a reaction to something so extreme? As an example to that, Aaron, when I was captured down in Central America at an undisclosed site, we were being moved in what they called dry camps. These were prison camps. And
Mhm.
I was in custody with an intelligence agent of that country whose identity was discovered. And that's exactly how we got captured. Anyway, in the time they were moving us, when they finally located us and they came in and did the extraction, I mean, they obliterated everybody that was holding us prisoner in that camp within moments. And I remember when they put me on a medevac helicopter to get me out of there, and they were trying to calm me down, and they were stroking my shoulder and speaking, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay." And as they started to ask questions, all I could do was cry. I couldn't form words. I couldn't do any of that. The intensity, the magnitude of that moment it's indescribable. So when you're sharing that, as you were just describing just then, I can completely relate to just exactly how confusing it gets when you're in an elevated moment of grief, because it's almost like you're not there. You're there, but you're not there. How could this be happening to me? How did I go through this moment in my life? How did I survive this moment in my life? In my case, we expected execution every single day until we were rescued. And, we were beaten, we were tortured, we did not expect to survive into the very next day. And when they hit the camp and they got us out of there, that, like I said, I was on that plane with a nurse working on me, and I just couldn't even speak. All I could do was cry. It was
Mhm.
my response reaction to it. And I suppose I was in an elevated state of shock when they got me to the black site and were able to secure me into an area where they could do a deeper inspection, if you will, of my body and what I'd survived and been through. I started finally coming down off that cloud of confusion, that cloud of an indescribable anxiety. So when you're in that moment of the blast, you find that you can't see. You're doing the zombie walk with your arms out there. There's so many other thoughts that are going through mind, but primarily surviving the moment is the number one principal thought, correct?
Do you think, I'm sorry, but do you think that, can you pinpoint the emotion that you were
But
feeling when you broke down like that? Was that relief? Was
no,
it
no, it
was it
wasn't relief.
shock? It
It,
was anger? Was it just a mixture of emotions? Was it just overwhelm?
that happened to me years ago, and I still try to figure it out every single day of my life. There's nights that I wake up and I'm literally bawling my eyes out. I'm back in the jungle. I'm going
Mhm.
through. I always wonder what happened to Manny, the agent that was captured with me. He was taken out on another helicopter, and I never saw him again. He was an intelligence officer in that country. I remember being loaded into the helicopter. I remember a nurse leaning over me and asking me specific questions, and I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk, Aaron. All I could do was all of this amazing amount of emotion was releasing within me. And it wasn't fear. It wasn't relief. I didn't feel relief at all in that moment. I was almost like not even in my body. I don't really know what words I could use to define the moment of being rescued to that capacity. I mean, I was still,
I
I
don't
was white.
know what that. I think I know what you're talking about, but I
Yeah.
don't have a word for it.
Yeah. I don't either, brother. I just know that it took a few days to get back into myself and in my mindset. It didn't come on right away. I didn't know how to cope with it. As I explained to you, I expected to be executed virtually every day we were in captivity. And because of Manny, the agent that was captured with me in that particular minute, my job was to insert him into a criminal organization. That's what I did.
Mhm.
And right away, when we got up to the northern border of that country, boarding another, we were taken through a restaurant out back, and both of us were immediately tased, bound, bagged, and thrown in the back of a vehicle and whisked away. He saved my life. What he did was he explained to them, and I was listening to him telling his story, which we had already prioritized before we went under to go do this insertion for him, was that I would have no knowledge. I was in Leavenworth prison with a person that we were trying to tie in within the Central American community that we were entering him into. And so I had credibility already with them because I was a prisoner. And when I got out, I was approached in Mexico City coming out of the embassy by two agents that were from that country. And I agreed to accept the contract. And it was a $75,000 payout for a 2 to 3 day incursion. And that was supposed to be it. Get him in there, get him inserted, verify and vouch for him, and get the hell out of there. And it didn't work that way. He was identified immediately. Somebody knew who he was, and that was it. So what he did to keep me alive was he would tell them, well, he had no idea who I was. He had no idea whatsoever. And they kind of bought it, but they still tortured us together. They still beat us together, and they did horrible things to him that I'm not going to talk about. Just in the course of the 7 weeks as we were being moved every few days from dry camp to dry camp. They actually found us. They had a water truck that would go into a community and fill with water and bring it to the encamped area that we would be at. And the couple agency people of his intelligence agency were able to identify the truck. And what they did was they poured a bacteria into the water. And within a few hours after consuming the water, everybody in the camp was really, really sick. Me and Manny included. I mean, we were deathly ill. And that's when they hit the camp and took out the targets and got us the hell out of there. But to this day,
I've spoken to a few Green Berets. I live down the road from the 7th Group compound,
Wow.
and it's amazing what we don't know
Oh my God.
combat that Americans have fought in South America. How little is known about what we've been doing for the last 50, 60 years.
I was operational in 4 different countries down there. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct. They have no idea whatsoever. And I mean, the extreme risk to our country as a result of some of the organizations that are freely operating, and some of them right out in the open. It's pretty amazing. I can remember doing a job in Managua, Nicaragua. I was working in Costa Rica. I was down in Panama, and I was working up in this other country that I'm not going to go into when I was captured. But Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, I'm Special Forces Team 5, they were in Panama at the time that I was doing an undercover op with an insertion in the city of Chicago. And they literally flew up there and covered my ass when I was meeting up with the #2 guy in the Sinaloa drug cartel that was running the whole entire Chicago area at that time. And we got him. We eventually got him. But pretty amazing. And I love the guys. I love the teams. I love every single thing about them. And there's no ego. There's no nothing with any of them. They all keep to it. And when you're operating in foreign embassies, and I've told this to Pete and my audience several times, I can remember coming into an embassy and going down to the cafeteria to get a bite to eat. And we always sat alone. And then a team would come in from outside the wire, and they wouldn't talk to anybody in the embassy, but they'd see you over there and they knew what you were, because we all sense that about one another that have worked in covert work like that. And they'll come right over and we'll sit down and we'll share tales. And you know what? I've written 11 action adventure novels as a result of 17 years of listening to the stories, having my own stories. And you can really, and I know you can relate to that, Aaron, because you've been around a lot of warriors and you understand that we have to use different names and we have to alter the stories. But I think the stories need to be shared. And if you ever go to drhalbradley.com, I think we've even got some of the books on audio. So I would welcome you to them, brother. And I can't tell you enough how much I was looking forward to doing this with you today, Aaron, because you're somebody that does understand the intensity of PTSD as a result of surviving something that you may or may not have considered that you were going to survive it in the first place. You're in the moment. And in that moment, it's just absolutely miraculous how I call it God, how God comes into us and he preserves us from going any further into the depths of the darkness that we find ourselves encompassed in that moment.
Well, you know, you asked about that transition, the pivot point.
Yeah.
I was in a bad place, of course. I had to call my demons, the voice in the back of my head telling me that I'd failed, that all the, like I said, the what ifs and why nots, and now I'm blind, so I can't do this. I can't be a dad. I can't be a soldier. I can't be a husband. I can't be an EOD technician. I can't be a real man anymore. I can't be independent. All this stuff. And like I said, my buddy Kyle, he wheeled himself in, and one of the, this is think about the military and brotherhood, and of course our sardonic humor. He wheels in. He goes, "Hey, Hale, give me your hand. You got to feel this." And that's not a good way to start a conversation with a couple. But he grabs my hand and he puts it palm of my hand right under his chin. He goes, "Feel that?" And he's got this like 2 weeks of growth. He goes, "Dude, the Marine EOD techs here, they have this liaison guy. As soon as they come out of surgery, he asks, how you doing? If they say okay, he hands them a razor and tells them to get back into regs. We don't have that liaison guy, dude. You got to grow your beard out. It's driving the Marines crazy." I didn't want to laugh. But I had to.
But you got it.
And he reminded me that I wasn't isolated. As lonely and isolating as being blind feels, and definitely felt at the time, I wasn't alone. There were warriors, recalibrated. I don't like saying wounded warriors. I like recalibrated carnivores, re-engineered experts, whatever. But they were up and down the halls, and they were fighting their own battles, their own personal fights, and they weren't quitting. And who was I to say that I had the monopoly on pain, right? I had no real excuse for quitting. So
it becomes rather humbling, doesn't it, brother? When you're in there with other warriors, with other meat eaters, and you know that they're going through severe trauma, to that extreme that you were going through in that moment. And I really commend you for that, because you identified and recognized it for what it was. And at that point in time, the pity party leaves us. We start identifying, we start the reclamation of our life as a result of other people's experiences and survivorships. At least for me, it's been that way. I just lost a friend to suicide here 3 Novembers ago. He was one of the 7 of us that were recognized for being captured on foreign soil in the service of our country back in 2000. It was in 2003 at the Seattle VA. There were 7 of us that got a certificate and got our survivor patches. And anyway, over the years, we've passed away, natural cause, a couple suicides, but losing Captain Robert, he was the last one. So I am the last man standing out of the 7 of us. And I tell you, I can't describe how much I miss that every day. And until Pete Turner got into my life a couple of years ago, God bless him, I now have a brother that I can relate to in my moment of stress, that moment, where you're really going through a very, very hard time. And Pete has me. And that's how you recover from that, is by being able to equate with people that have a similarity to the type of trauma that you're trying to survive yourself from, such as you. And the description of what you just said there, and Walter Reed, that was perfect, Aaron, because that's what brought you out of the fog of that which you were contending with in that moment, of the grief, of the depression, of the feeling of not worthy, all those kind of things you were describing. I get that story. But it took a brother coming by to put a hand on a chin and put a smile on a face that you suppressed the smile.
I'm just glad the hairy part was his chin.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
But,
Pete's shaking his head yes in the background, brother, big time, because we know what that is. And
but
amazing.
yeah, I just a few days ago interviewed Travis Mills on my show,
Wow.
and he's the one of 5 quadruple amputees to survive Afghanistan and Iraq, and he's got the most amazing. It was Jocko Willink called him the most inspiring person he's ever met.
Yeah. Wow.
And I got to talk to him, and he has one of his more recent books. It was Travis has a few books out, but it was one of his books. He goes through his 12 rules for living a great life, and one of them has to do with the people that you surround yourself with, having a team. And that was
Absolutely.
one of the reasons that we did so well in the service, because we had that brotherhood, that
Absolutely.
camaraderie. And after injury, after service, after crisis, right, we can't isolate ourselves. And that was one of the things that helped to pull me out of the, forgive the pun, darkness.
Yeah.
But there was something that pulled me away from just listening to my demons. So I had my buddy Kyle, I had those other warriors, I had an incredibly supportive family, and it was not just them supporting me, but
Yes.
it's me supporting them, me
Yes.
caring about them takes it's as though you don't have the capacity to feel as much of your pain when you're compassionate about others.
Boy, that's an excellent explanation. And brother, I had a PTSD doctor here in Seattle that worked with me for several months going through it. And the best advice that I pulled from all of that I went through was the demons are never, ever going to go away. They're not going to go away. But when they show up in your life, you need to pull them out, take a look at them, talk to them, and calmly put them back inside, because they're forever a part of us. Do you believe in that principle?
Do everyone?
Do you believe in that theory, that principle, that it's never going to leave you, but what you've got to do is find a mutual area to make peace with it. And then once you make peace with it, you put it back inside of yourself, because it's a part of you. And then talk to someone like I have with Pete Turner, someone that's been through experiences. Like you said, you need that brotherhood. You need to have that formation of people that have a distinct understanding of what you have been going through, what you have gone through, and now where you've taken it to this day in your life. And it's pretty remarkable.
Well, just like Travis, Travis realized that part of the way he stays healthy, he stays sane, right, is to take care of others, to share a story, to inspire others, helps him in return.
That's his piece.
Right, he got up on his prosthetic legs, and he moved into what was a building 62 is like the apartment building of Walter Reed, where
Uh-huh.
I didn't get to stay there that long. They didn't have a whole lot for me after fixing up my head. So I went on to blind rehab in Augusta, Georgia, the VA hospital there.
Oh, interesting.
But Travis, as soon as he could walk around, he was going into other warriors' rooms. He was up and down the halls there. They called him the mayor of Building 62, and it was a Marine who walked into his. I think it was one of the other 4 quadruple amputees walked into his room. Oh, and asked him if he needed anything. He asked for, I think it was like a ginger ale or something. And this quadruple amputee reached into the refrigerator, pulled out a can of ginger ale, opened it for him,
Wow.
and gave him a drink.
Wow. Amazing.
So it was when he realized that there was life after injury, that there's possibility there, and it was because of this other warrior. And I don't know, I have no idea where I heard it, but it's been tattooed into my brain. But I say it all the time. Someday the story of your struggle may be the blueprint for someone else's survival.
Yes.
And
I like that.
So I got out of Walter Reed. I decided that if I was going to be blind for the rest of my life, I was going to be the best damn blind Aaron Hale that I could be. And I started learning how to be blind. I'm using the accessible tools, the blind, the cane, the text-to-speech software. I started researching who can do this. What do I want out of life? Instead of I can't, I started turning around saying, how can I? And instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? And how can I use this to teach others? How can I find ways to share my experiences? And I found a bunch of names started popping up on the internet of blind people doing some amazing things. Eric Weinmeyer is the first blind person to climb Mount Everest. So I found him. I reached out to him. I went mountain climbing with him. And Lonnie Bedwell is another Navy veteran, first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon. And it's totally blind in a solo kayak. And I've reached out to him. I went kayaking with him. And I started running because I made it to Florida. I actually asked to be go back to the EOD schoolhouse to start instructing. While I was out processing the med board and all that. But I was in Florida, and I started running because, well, it's really hard to find a decent mountain to train on, to go there in Florida. So I started running, and I registered for some marathons, and I started speaking and doing all this stuff. Just by living a good life and sharing my story, that I found that others and so many people that I've gotten to speak with on my podcast and outside, they share the same sentiment, is that by living a good life and sharing the story and telling about the struggle and then how they deal with it, it helps others, because sometimes we just gotta get into that loop, that spiral where the I can'ts, the why me's, all of that, and they don't see that there's a door right there and you can walk right through.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, listen, Aaron, as we're getting ready to wrap up the show today, I want to tell you that this has been, without a doubt, probably the most inspiring interview I've done in more than 50 interviews on the Crisis Victory Show. What you say I relate to completely. The heroism of lifting up another outside of your own trauma to be there of benefit for other people is just exactly what I designed this show for. And brother, I got to tell you, I have nothing but respect for you. I have a love for you, for what you have gone through and what you're doing with it as a result of what you have survived. And there's no doubt in my mind that you're an encouragement to so many of us. And Aaron, thank you so very much for coming on today. We really, really appreciate you. And God bless you and your family. God bless those that are with you in spirit. And God bless those that stand by you in your day-to-day walk of giving back to others. Thank you, brother.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.